Welcome back to Switzer. Okay, Senator David Leyonhjelm was a bit of a surprise package. He came to us as a new senator in 2013 with a very crafty party name, Liberal Democratic Party. And he also got lucky from being first cab on the rank on the massive Senate voting share. And with the upcoming election, Senator Leyonhjelm is putting his hand up to oppose some of the superannuation proposals the government put forward in the budget. So let's just see what his super arguments are. Thanks for joining us on the program, David. I've got to say, when I first saw you come in the Senate, I thought, this guy has really thought outside the square. You know, it was a very clever thing to come up with Liberal Democratic Party.
I can't claim credit for that.
Can't you?
I joined the party 4 years after it was formed.
Okay. Well, whoever came up with it was very clever. But of course, I guess in a sense, you got lucky that you got a great position on the Senate. And I didn't know you from a bar of soap. And I thought, who is this guy? But over the last 3 years, I think you've impressed everybody with, you know, the positions you take. And it's good to have people have unique positions on many arguments that were in politics, and this is a very important one as well. Why have you put your hand up to fight for superannuation trustees?
Well, this is not reform of superannuation. It's a tax grab, pure and simple tax grab. The government is trying to pretend that it's putting a bit more in at the low income end while taking tax out at the top end. But essentially, it's about raising taxes on superannuation because superannuation is taxed at concessional rates. The government thinks it's giving up revenue and it wants more of it. The problem is, the underlying problem is that they won't face up to the excessive spending. They acknowledge that spending is a problem, but they just won't do anything about it. We've got a $40 billion deficit. We're paying $1 billion a month in interest costs to service our national debt. And the government, and Scott Morrison in particular, knows jolly well that the only feasible answer is to reduce spending, but it's politically unpalatable. It reminds me of that anecdote about the European leaders who'd been discussing Greece. And they emerged from the meeting, they were one of many meetings, they emerged from the meeting and the Prime Minister of Luxembourg said, we all know what to do, we all know what should be done, it's just we don't know how to do it and stay elected. That's the problem that Scott Morrison, Malcolm Turnbull, Matthias Cormann face.
Okay.
So superannuation, the tax changes are just a tax grab. If they were serious about getting people off the pension, they wouldn't do it the way they've done it. Okay,
so first of all, when they say only 4% of people are affected, what do you say to that?
Well, I haven't done a hard, serious analysis of that, but it seems, judging by the noise and the complaints that we're getting from Liberal Party members and Liberal Party supporters, that's a heck of a lot more than that. If you run through the scenarios, it's not just people who have got high superannuation balances. It's people who would like to build up their super, and now they can't do it because the maximum they can put in over their life is only $500,000.
From a non-concessional point of view.
For a non-concessional point, yes, that's right. So if they've got to sell a business, they might get more than $500,000 for it. They might have been aiming to put that into super. Inheritances are commonly dumped into super. So in a couple, you might have her parents, his parents, and both leave them with a bequest, and they might want to park that into super so that they can take it out in their old age as they retire and benefit from the tax advantage. They'll be affected, irrespective of how old they are.
Yeah.
Divorced couples are affected. Quite often the superannuation is factored into the property settlement. And of course, if you've got two members of a self-managed super fund and each has say just under 1.6 million in pension phase, but one of them dies and it transfers across to the remaining member of that fund, all of a sudden they have to start paying tax on the amount that's over 1.6, 15% tax. So there are quite a lot of people who are affected, and I think it'd probably go way over 4%.
Yeah, and also the area that I think they're ignoring is the fact that currently, if you're over 50, your concessional cap is 35, it comes down to 25.
Yes.
If you're under 50, it's 30, that goes to 25. So every employee who's getting a concessional contribution has had a cap put on them, which is being reduced. That's going to be the whole working population. It's not 4%.
No, you're quite right. It's a lot more people. I also think it has a very negative effect on the way people view the world and their future. You know, they're looking for financial security. It's a bit like looking at a car, somebody drive past in a very, very expensive car. There are two reactions you can have. One is that guy shouldn't have that car because I can't afford one. That's the sort of the envy reaction. Yeah. I think a more typical reaction is, gee, I hope one day I can afford to have a car like that. Now, it's a bit like that with super. Now that it's not possible to essentially to have a $10 million super fund, or it doesn't make much sense, people will say, well, what's the point now? You know, I've got nothing to aim for. I was looking forward to a very comfortable retirement, not taking any money from the government, paying for myself completely, my health care, my no pension, all those sorts of concessions that are available to low-income people. They look forward to not having to receive any of those. It's a matter of dignity and pride. And they're saying, well, now the government's saying, well, yeah, we don't want you to be on the pension, but we also don't want you to be too well off in your retirement either.
David, have you talked to other senators who are like, for example, Nick Xenophon, to see what their position is on the government superannuation proposals?
No, I haven't. The Senate hasn't been sitting now for quite a while now, so the opportunity...
And do we still call you senator, even though it's been dissolved?
Yeah, until I lose my seat, I'm still a senator.
Okay,
yes,
good.
Technically, yes.
Yes.
No, I haven't. I haven't talked to Nick. However, I mean, Nick votes for the Greens 2/3 of the time. Yeah. Now, the Greens, I'm not speaking for Nick here, but the Greens have never seen a tax increase they don't like. So my feeling is that probably Nick would say, oh, well, the money's going to be used for something that I think is useful, therefore he'd tend to support it. My attitude is I'll never vote for an increase in taxes ever. Taxes are already too high. There's no justification for putting them up. If you want to impose a tax in one area, you've got to lower them in another area so that the overall tax burden doesn't increase and preferably comes down to get my approval.
And I guess Labor in many ways will probably stand up to the government on some of these proposals because they're not jumping on board, which I thought they could easily do it. But in a sense, I did write a story, vote Labor, build up your super, kick them out.
Yes.
And, but a lot of people would be thinking that, I think. A lot of coalition supporters would be so disappointed by the fact that they can't build the super up.
Well, what we're saying to them, we're getting a lot of them contacting us.
Yeah,
We've
imagine you are.
Functions, they're putting on breakfasts and lunches with supporters and donating money. I don't think they're leaving the Liberal Party in droves, but they're certainly looking for someone else to support as a sort of a protest vote.
Yeah.
We're getting hundreds and hundreds of them. What I'm suggesting to them is they can vote strategically, if you like. Most of them don't want to see a Labor government. And so what they're concerned about is how to vote a protest vote and not inadvertently elect a Labor government. So what we're saying to them is vote for the Liberals in the lower house, in the House of Representatives, the Green ticket. But then when it comes to the Senate, if you want to lodge a protest vote, you can vote for the Liberal Democrats, number one, and if you're worried, you can vote for other little parties if you like, but you put the Liberals next, or after you've satisfied that you've voted for any minor parties that you want to. Because of the new voting system, if you don't put a number above the Labor Party or the Greens or any of the other parties you hate, you won't accidentally elect them. Your preferences won't go anywhere other than what you do with them on the ballot paper.
Are you happy with that?
It's from a Liberal Democrat's point of view, it's fine because we're already inside the drawbridge. From the point of view of all the other little parties, and there's probably 40 of them, they're all outside the moat. They're not going to get in. None of them have got a chance of getting elected. We're going to see a very substantial reduction in the number of small parties in future elections after this one. I don't think that's good for democracy. In a normal half-Senate election, you will need a threshold of about 7 or 8% to win a seat. Now, most of the time, the minor parties haven't got a chance of getting anywhere into that. Getting 2% out of in your first election is a major feat. The only exception to that will be something like the Palm United Party. If you throw $20 million at campaigning, well, you know, you can get that sort of number. I don't think you know, we need a system that allows money to get you in the door.
That's a good point. David, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
And good luck with your fight on behalf of superannuation trustees.
Thank you very much.
That's Senator David Leyonhjelm. Okay, after the break, we'll see how FN Arena's Rudy Philippek Van Dyke is going to play the market over June, which historically is a very negative month. And to understand the implications of a credit card change on the way and their implications on consumer and business, we talk to Lance Blockley of the RFI Group.